right, today I'm going to tell you how you can work out and lift weights for really, really incredible amounts of strength while also putting on incredible amounts of muscle mass. Today I'm going to tell you how you can avoid having just show muscles. You know, a lot of people kind of make a knock on bodybuilding, saying that, you know, while bodybuilders look great, they don't really have any strength to really show for it. When it comes to actually, you know, doing certain lifts, they can't really put up impressive numbers at all. And I would say the vast majority of people, the way in which they are bodybuilding or lifting weights is not conducive to putting on any really impressive amounts of strength. And not only that, the look is different. So the way in which I'm going to tell you how to lift today will, one, make you incredibly strong, but two, in my opinion, it's actually the most efficient way to put on muscle mass. You know, y'all know my story. I went from doing my last 100 or my last 50-mile ultra marathon at 157 pounds, and within a year and a half, I turned pro, IFBB pro in bodybuilding, and I went pro in men's physique at 182 pounds. Within 6 weeks, I was 235 pounds. And then, you know, I finished out my bodybuilding career at my heaviest at 260 pounds. And, you know, a big part of this is this training style. And all along the way, I got incredibly strong working out this way. Not only is this the most efficient way to put on muscle, but it also creates a different look. You know, the vast majority of people, the way in which they're lifting weights, while it will still work in, you know, building muscle, you know, the typical way people work out is very kind of similar to how Arnold Schwarzenegger used to lift back in the day. It will grow muscle for sure, but it is a different look. And it's a look too that the muscle doesn't stick as well. It doesn't create as deep of a muscle maturity and density that you can frankly keep, you know, for the rest of your life. It's really easy to maintain when you've got this. So let's just jump right into it. This is how you can gain insane amounts of strength while packing on muscle at a very fast rate. So how most people, when they get into bodybuilding or get into trying to build muscle, is, you know, they'll have, you know, there's certain volume layouts. Today, we're not going to really get into volume layouts. You know, I've talked many times about the spectrum between volume and intensity. If y'all want, I can make what we're talking about today a whole series. Today, we're going to get into how to actually go about setting up this training style to do this. But we can talk about how to assess your progression, how to know when to titrate volume up and down. I could literally talk on this for multiple days. So if y'all want me to do a series on this, let me know. And, you know, I'll know to kind of go deeper on it. But what we're going to get into today is how to actually set up this training style. So how most people go into the gym when they're lifting is, let's just take their first movement, for example, might be incline bench press. They'll get up on the bar. Maybe they do a warm up, maybe they don't. And their first working set is, let's say they're aiming for 12 reps at, 185. So they'll go ahead and do that. Then their second working set, they'll go ahead and add a little bit of weight on the bar. Let's say it's up to 205, and they'll shoot for 10 reps, and they'll get 10 reps. And then their third working set, their heaviest set, they'll add more weight to the bar. Now it's at 225, and they'll squeeze out 7-8 reps. But they're essentially pyramiding up in weight and typically down in reps each consecutive movement. A lot of people don't even do that. A lot of people will have a set weight and set reps for how many sets they do. So, you know, a lot of people will go into the gym and just be like, I need to do 3 sets of 10 reps on whatever it is. Both of these strategies are going to be inefficient. The biggest piece of advice I can give you is when you're thinking about building muscle and building strength at the same time, everything comes into this picture. So that's where full range of motion, proper execution, but the main point here is maximal tension. You want maximal tension through the full eccentric and concentric part of the movement. It's not just when you're pushing the bar up, you also want to maintain full tension, as much tension as possible on the way down. That's where you're getting that time under tension, is if you're full set, you have full tension on the muscle the entire time. So one thing that really increases the amount of tension is the load, is the weight. So what I want you guys to start doing is, instead of going in and your first working set being your lightest set and then you're building up, it makes more sense for your first set to be your top set, your heaviest set, because now instead of, on your third working set, maybe being at 225, now you're going to come in and your first working set is going to be 245. So now already right off the bat, day one, you're under a heavier load. Now the way to do this, the way to set up your movement is when you get under the bar, you need to go ahead and do a few warm-up sets. Now these warm-up sets are literally just locking in the execution, pushing a little bit of blood into the muscle, and building you safely to that top set. You're not going to want to walk straight into your heaviest set, not with the proper form locked in, proper execution locked in, all of that. So, I typically do 2 to 3 warm-up sets to where, the first warm-up set might be 6 to 8 reps at, say, if I was going to do my top set at 315, then I'm going to do, one warm-up set with 1 plate on the bar. So, I'll go ahead and do 8 reps with 135. Then, I'll go ahead and add, another plate, 225, and I'll do, 5-ish reps. And then I'll have a third warm-up set at, say, 275 and only do like 2 reps here. It's really just, you want it to be non-fatiguing at all, meaning these warm-up sets shouldn't take away from any of the amount of reps you could do on your top set. But it's building you safely there. So then your top set, you go ahead and do 315, have your rep range that you want. Your goal rep range, say 8 to 12, but that's just your goal. Really, the whole thing is you need to take this all out to failure, meaning that you literally could not get another rep no matter how hard you try. Now, you want to keep, your execution locked in the entire time, but your first working set, this needs to be all out to failure, meaning that if you, don't have your numbers locked in a logbook yet and you don't know what you're going to do and you overestimate the weight and you can only get 6 reps and you fall short of your rep range, that's fine. You went to failure. This is going to help you get incredibly strong. If you overestimate and you actually, do more reps than your rep range, that's fine. You still went all out to failure. And then next week you need to add weight. And then from there, after your top set, take as long of a rest period as you need to fully recover to hit the next set with max intensity. Me personally, on most upper body movements, I rest for 3 to 4 minutes between sets. On lower body movements, even longer, 4 or 5, sometimes even longer minutes between sets. I've done this for literally years. When you go in to lift weights, you're not trying to keep your heart rate as elevated as possible. This isn't a cardio workout. This is when we're trying to build muscle and build strength. You can do cardio at a different time. So don't worry about the rest periods. The rest periods, you need to give adequate time to allow max intensity on your sets. Now, we can talk about the volume thing in another time. I typically do, and what I've done for literally years, what so many of my clients do, is literally 2 working sets per movement. And not that many movements per body part. Let's say I'm doing a push day, so chest, shoulders, tries. I'll do 2 to 3 movements for chest, literally 2 to 3, and each one will have 2 working sets, a top set and a back off set. Now, why it's called a back off set? Your first working set will be that top set, that heaviest set. In order then for your next set, for you to stay in the rep range, your rep range could be 6 to 8, it could be 8 to 12. This is depending on how much strength you're wanting to max out. If a guy comes to me and he is really trying to maximize the power building aspect of it. So you guys know I talk all the time on high intensity bodybuilding and power building. High intensity bodybuilding is the same strategy we're talking about. It's with a little bit higher rep range, so like 8 to 12. Power building is going to skew a little bit lower rep range because you're really, really trying to also maximize as much strength as possible. Both strategies are going to get you strong as an ox, but I would say for those that are slightly skewed on wanting more hypertrophy and muscle, go with high intensity bodybuilding, more of like an 8 to 12 rep range. And those on the power building side wanting to really, really combine strength with muscle, skew a little bit more strength, go on the power building side, a little more like 6 to 8. But point is when you go from top set to back off set, most of the time you're gonna have to pull your weight 10 to 20% to keep you in the desired rep range. Sometimes you don't. If you've got your numbers locked in, then sometimes you can keep the same weight on the bar. If you did 12 reps on the top set, then maybe you can squeeze out 8 reps on the back off. But typically back off, it's called a back off set because you're backing off in weight just a tad. So typically for most movements, I go in, I do my warm-ups, and then it's literally an all-out top set to failure, and then I take a long rest period, and then an all-out back off set to failure. And that's it, guys, for the movement. The whole point here is that you've got to put yourself under the heavy loads. You've got to take it all out to failure, and have your rep range as a reference. But the whole main point here is failure. Don't be one of these guys that just because you've got it written in your plan to do 10 reps, if you could have done 12 and you stop at 10, you are leaving so much growth potential on the table. So then from there, what the main thing you need to then do, and this is why I talk about the logbook so much, is every single time you set foot in the gym, you look back on the session you did before, and if you did 9 reps at 225 the week before, then the goal on this set is 10 reps at 225 at least. Point is every single time you set foot in the gym, you should be looking back at that individual set from the session before and just trying to go up a rep, or if you've maxed out the rep range, going up in weight. And if you are progressing week after week after week, this is how you pack on muscle really, really, really quickly. And you gain a ton of strength. I'm telling you, if you're progressing week after week after week and you do that for a couple of years, before you know it, you are lifting insane amounts of weight with really tight execution. Guys, at my peak, when I was 260 pounds, I was doing 75-pound dumbbells, side laterals with perfect execution. I'm talking very slow, very controlled, none of the jerking, like literally very controlled with 75s. And it was just from week after week after week progressing. You will get strong as an ox doing this. And whether you are enhanced or you're natural, this is the most efficient way to train. This is actually even better for naturals. Naturals need to train this way compared to doing volume. This is the way to really, really maximize not overburdening your body, over fatiguing your body with too much junk volume. This is how you can really stimulate a lot more growth. I coach both enhanced and natural athletes, and all my natural athletes train exactly this way and get fantastic results. So this is a little taste of it. Like I said, if you guys want, I can do a full series on this, but get away from just, falling short of failure and then doing too much junk volume. And then, if anything, do the reverse pyramid where your first set's your heaviest and then you come down. But this right here will change things. Time for y'all. But I hope you guys found some value in this. If you did, please go ahead and smash that like button, hit subscribe if you haven't already. Leave any comments, questions down below. All glory to God. God bless you, and have a great rest of your day.